Welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and I'm here today with George Straggas of Mediation Solutions. In full disclosure, George is not just a business colleague of mine, he's also a provider to our firm. He's provided legal advice for our employment law issues and things around that so that we make sure we're compliant and stay compliant all the time with things like employee handbooks and those. And George has a wonderful background, and he's going to tell us a little about what he's doing at Mediation Solutions today as well. George, welcome.
Thank you, Ralph. It's good to be here.
Wonderful. So that our audience gets a little bit of a history about you, can you tell them about your professional and personal journey that's led up to where you are today and what's going on in Mediation Solutions and all the things that are good about your practice?
Sure, glad to. So I've been practicing law in California for 38 years. Most of that time litigating cases in the Orange County courts. And about 6 years ago, started doing mediation. And for your viewers that may not know what that is, there are a lot of disputes that just certainly make it to the courts and can't be resolved by the parties themselves. So oftentimes they need the assistance of a neutral third party. A mediator will come in often when litigation has already started and attempts to help the parties to reach an amicable resolution of their dispute that they weren't able to do on their own. And that's what we do at Mediation Solutions.
Yeah, and you had told me the cruciality of this because of the kind of backlog that judges in courtrooms are under and all the time. Maybe you can share a little bit about that and just how difficult it is to get through a case and have enough time on the calendar to do it.
Yeah, so I have been volunteering with the Orange County Superior Court for many years to resolve cases through their mediation program. And while doing that, we learned recently that now that the judges have gotten to a place where they have about 1,000 cases apiece. And if you think about that, if you have a case that you think is going to go to trial and you and your attorney would really love to tell your story to a jury, and a judge has 1,000 cases, well, if your jury trial is going to take a week or 2 weeks, you can see where that's just not practical. It's not going to happen for the vast majority of the cases. In fact, the courts tell us that if more than 3% of cases go to trial, the system will just collapse under its own weight. We need to settle 97 to 98% of all disputes that get filed as lawsuits. And so businesses like Mediation Solutions are there when the parties just can't get there to settle and resolve cases short of trial. And hopefully they see us early. We are able to get them to a place where they can resolve their dispute before they've spent tens of thousands of dollars on each side with their attorneys in trying to get to a solution. We created Mediation Solutions for that reason.
Yeah, not only can it be less expensive and a little bit more expeditious, I'm curious, does the court assign Mediation Solutions or your other peer groups, or how does that happen? How do you get served up as the mediator for any particular situation?
When we provide services through Mediation Solutions, it's because the lawyers choose us. The work that we do, mediators all over the state do for the courts is on a volunteer basis. But we have a business, Mediation Solutions, where we also provide those services.
Interesting. And how does that, I'm curious now, George, as you speak about it, if there's pay for services and there's volunteer services, how do they gravitate towards the pay for that it was sound enough to have a business model?
So the court will provide you with a mediator for 3 hours. One time on each case is approximately right. And that there's not a ton of flexibility there. A lot of disputes are more complex than that and need a lot more attention and care. An average mediation in the paid for world is about 6 to 8 hours long. You also do not receive mediation services from the court when you want them. They are made available when the court provides them. Generally speaking, that can be within the last 90 days before a trial when you've already spent a lot of money, or it can be as close as 30 days before the trial. And it's a lot more difficult for you to resolve your dispute when you've already paid your attorney 80 to 90% of what you're going to pay them to potentially try the case. So for the most part, parties search out private mediation services to resolve their disputes,
as opposed to staying on the court's calendar in another path or another lane, waiting for the mediator to become available.
Correct.
And it may not be sufficient in terms of the 3 hours that are provided.
That's right. That's right.
Interesting. Very interesting. What we're here today to talk about is integrity. And so integrity in the world of mediation. And, we were talking about this a little bit earlier offline with regards to two contentious parties and how you make certain that these folks keep it between the rails and keep everything above board and have that level of integrity. That's got to be a curious and interesting proposition, I would suspect, at a minimum.
Well, integrity starts with the individual, right? And it starts, in my mind, the moment you wake up in the morning. When you put your feet on the carpet, and what do you think about? What you think about when you first start your day, I think, really tells the tale about how integrity fits into your life. If your focus is on how can I help the people that I'm going to be working with today, that probably means that your integrity level is in the right place, very high. If you have a core set of principles and people know what those are, and you ask yourself, can I do the work that I'm asked to do today consistent with those principles? I think that really gets the day started in the right direction without you actually thinking about the word integrity. You're thinking about the right things that are going to allow that to happen. But it is true in the mediation context, you do have two parties that do not trust one another. They have a dispute against one another. And somehow you've got to get them both to trust you through transparency, not through any sort of trickery or anything like that. And you have to be able to move them off those positions and get them to a place where they can reach agreement and resolve their dispute. And so it is a challenge. It is a challenge. But if you go into the day with the right mindset, it's not an impossible challenge for sure.
Can you share with our audience a moment in time, whether it was in the mediation environment or otherwise in practice or even outside of practicing law, where the principle of integrity played a key role in your decision-making process and your approach to the situation?
Sure. Well, I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I started out working in a 600 lawyer law firm many years ago. I formed my law firm in 1997, which I guess is long enough ago. But they're actually, I guess we used to ride horses to work or something. It was a long, long time ago. I worked in a big law firm, and in that environment, the driving force can often be how much is the bottom line profit for the firm. And in that environment, you are asked to cut corners all the time. And in order to avoid that sort of a situation, you find yourself working harder and harder than anyone else in the environment. And for me, the kinds of compromises that I was being asked to make in order to make sure that we were focused on bottom line profit as opposed to client service, that's what led me to my decision to become an entrepreneur. I did not want to be in that environment anymore. And I found that integrity is easier when you're the person in control because your principles are the guiding principles for the organization.
Yeah, they become the beacon and the light by which we follow, and it finds our true north a lot easier, doesn't it?
That's absolutely right. And I think the key to that is also not only having those principles, but making them known so that not only can you lead people in your organization to follow those same principles, but also they can check you on them. When you go off the rails at all, they're right there to be able to, tell you, okay, I don't think that's consistent with what you tell me we're trying to do here. And that all also comes from creating an environment where people feel free to discuss those issues with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the value. So let's piggyback on that a little bit and pick up almost right where you left off relative to those that follow you. So in an employer-employee environment, how does integrity play a role for you, and what value do you think it adds to culture and to employee loyalty?
Well, first you have to define the principles. What are they, right? Honesty, transparency. In both of my businesses, as an attorney and as a mediator, confidentiality, very important. Consistency, being a person of your word. Um, all of those kinds of things. One thing that I think is most difficult is admitting mistakes. It was always something for me that was problematic, and it's always problematic for new employees. They don't want to own, and we all make them. We all have to admit to the fact that we make mistakes, and the key there, of course, is to not only admit the mistake, but come with a reasonable resolution to the mistake that you are willing to engage in. So once you know what those principles are, and that, okay, these are the guiding principles of the organization, now let's follow them. And let's follow them daily. And let's think about everything that we do and whether those things can be accomplished in consistent with those principles. And sometimes that means rejecting new business, for example. Might look like a wonderful piece of new business, but it doesn't. We're not going to be able to perform the services consistent with our values. Just as an example. So,
Yeah, and I want to pick up on that. So when you encounter and you sense your spidey sensors go off, and you encounter that proposed business relationship, but you're finding that something is off, what are you looking for, and how are you responding in order to do that as diplomatically as possible when you're walking away from a potential client?
well, I think that I guess it's become a cliche to say, "Oh, my antenna went up," right? And we do have them, and I think that experience leads to that. You hear a word that doesn't ring true. You hear excuses that don't seem to match the situation. There's not a good explanation for why certain things occurred. Um, and the expectations sometimes of clients are extreme and beyond what you can reasonably deliver. And so you listen for all of those types of things. And, sometimes it might just not be a fit. Maybe the goals of the client and the ability to work with them towards those goals just aren't there. And they would be better off or better served with a different personality, a different type of person to pursue those goals for them.
Yes. Can you share with our audience, George, a situation without breaching any confidences where the opposite side, where someone actually, the counterparty, was not acting with integrity, and how that whole thing shook out and what you had to do and how you struggled with the decisions you had to make?
Yeah, like you, Ralph, I'm in two businesses where confidentiality is key, and it makes it somewhat difficult. But I can share this story. I know of a very talented attorney who, in building his practice, had a tendency to promise more than he could deliver. And the biggest promise that he would make is, "I'm the expert in this area. I'm going to do all of your work personally," right? And he would leave lunch number one to go to lunch number two and continue to make that promise over and over again. Well, we all have only so many hours in the day. And the idea of, well, I'm going to hire the superstar in this particular industry was very attractive. So he got a big book of business and needed to keep hiring new employees who would be fulfilling what he had promised he would do for himself. Well, those new employees may have had the best of intentions, but number one, he has already lied to the client by telling them, "I'm going to do your work personally." But he also had no time to train any of these people. Ultimately, you can see that it resulted in disaster. And oftentimes, I think we find that when we lose sight of integrity principles, that's exactly what the end result is going to be. Ultimately, it's not only the right thing to do; it's also bad business. I think.
Yeah, that's for sure. What role does integrity play when you think it comes to your client following and the loyalty that clients have with this principle of integrity, whether it's spoken or just delivered quietly?
Well, it's to me, it's a lot about repeat business. You know whether somebody believes in you and trusts you by whether they are recommending you to others, and whether you see them a second time or a third time or a fourth time, and hopefully for a lifetime. In my mediation business, I am dealing with other lawyers mostly. Usually, it's not business people that make the decision to go to mediation; it's their attorneys that do. And so if I have a bad reputation with any particular lawyer, they're not going to entrust me with acting in a neutral capacity to try to help them resolve a dispute for their client. And one of the most flattering things I think that can happen to you in your business is a competitor, in my business, an opposing counsel from previous litigation, recommending me or actually hiring me to provide services. That means something. It means that even in the heat of battle, you have demonstrated to them something, some quality that leads them to believe that they can entrust work to you, and entrust that you're going to maintain confidentiality, not have a conflict of interest, and really work hard to try to resolve the dispute.
Yeah, it seems to me, the word you were hitting on, absent integrity, their folks are going to lack that ability to entrust you or respect you in any encounter. But with integrity, you might not win their full respect, but they certainly understand that you're coming from the right place.
Well, in some instances, it's interesting. The reason why, or one of the reasons why we formed our business, is that with this high demand for mediation services, uh, the pricing has gotten out of control. While there are a lot of choices that people can make in terms of trying to find quality mediation services, these folks are charging upwards of $20,000 and $30,000 a day for their services because supply and demand, right? There just isn't, there aren't enough mediators around to resolve all of these disputes. And so by bringing our concept really was to bring practicing attorneys into the mediation realm that have, in fact, experience as mediators. They present availability that some of the mediation services cannot provide. Sometimes you have to wait 120, 150 days to get a mediator, but also the pricing is there as well. And so if you can create a situation where people can access with some immediacy mediation services at a reasonable price, well, that's the goal that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. So, George, one of the things I always love to ask, whether it's for our younger group or not that listens in, some of the insights that you've learned professionally and personally, that if you knew them when you were starting out, for those that are listening and who are starting out, what are some of those tips, those insights, maybe even tricks of the trade that you've learned along the way that help propel or would accelerate the career and the professions of others that are starting out now?
Yeah. I think, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I thought I had to focus on marketing. I thought marketing was the most important thing. I don't have any work, right? I need to be able to build a business, and that means going out and selling, selling, selling. The truth is that the way that you sell your services best is by doing great work. The more the word gets out that this is a person that means what they say, they're effective, they work hard, they're able to deliver results, then what you find is it's not really marketing in the sense of running an ad or being Sweet James, the attorney on the billboard. It's more that Ralph Adamo or some other person will say, you know what, I've used the services of that attorney, and he is a good attorney, and he provided value for what he was asked to do, and he delivered on what was promised. And I think that alone is, to me, the key piece of advice, because ultimately the work is going to come to you because you do good work. It's not going to come to you because you have a flashy magazine ad.
Well said. We've been having a conversation with George Straggas of Mediation Solutions. George, a practicing attorney, a practicing mediator. Maybe for our audience, in our short time we still have here, would you
Sure.
share a little bit about the difference between a mediator or mediation and arbitration, so that
Sure.
folks have that kind of clarity in their minds?
Sure. So, in legal tradition, dispute resolution in the old country was something for rich people, right? And so dispute resolution in a court was something that lords and ladies did. And the rest of us folk would go to the local church and hope that the pastor had time to resolve our disputes for us. When we come to the United States, our court systems are supposed to be designed for everyone. Okay. And we soon learned that courts are not the only solution. We just don't have enough resources in the public courts to handle all of that. So some disputes that require a decision maker, that's called arbitration, will hire a private arbitrator who will make a decision, and that decision will be upheld by a judge eventually. What we're doing is something different. Mediation is different from arbitration in that we cannot make decisions. We only try to help people resolve their own disputes by coming together and making a settlement.
Is there a way to give an example, obviously without giving the situation away, on how you navigate two folks that are at polar opposites, how you navigate to common ground?
Sure. The main thing that you have to do is convince people that their positions are different than what's in their best interest. One of those things is to talk to people about just how much money they're going to spend getting to a trial of a case. And in some instances, the stakes are so high that doesn't matter. If you have Apple versus Samsung and there's billions at stake, they're not sweating the attorney's fees as much. But for the average person to lay out after-tax dollars towards paying for legal services to try to get to a particular place, oftentimes you can convince people of the truth that doesn't often make sense. And with 38 years of experience in trying cases, settling cases, I can bring to them a perspective of what they can expect. And they may have heard it from their own attorney, but I can give them a dose of reality of what are the chances that 12 people you've never met are going to agree with you on these set of facts. And how much are you going to spend to get there? And after considering those types of practical issues, we can start developing and finding what people really need and what is in their best interest as opposed to what their position is.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, George, this has been a wonderful conversation. As we're rounding the corner, if anyone in our audience wants to reach out and get in touch with you individually or Mediation Solutions, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, our website is mediationsolutionsadr.com. The ADR is Alternative Dispute Resolution, mediationsolutionsadr.com. And they can reach us on our phone number at 949-464-4050 as well. And they can also just email me my first initial G, Straggas at mediationsolutionsadr.com.
Wonderful. Well, George, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the Power of Integrity podcast. I really appreciate you. Appreciate you as a professional, as a friend, as a colleague. Thank you again for being a wonderful guest.
Well, Ralph, thank you as well. I appreciate you entrusting work to me as well, and that you're a friend. And gosh, it was a great opportunity to just come and have some fun and talk to you.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
You bet.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional if investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA. SIPC 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.